everyone, my name's Michelle and this is my channel Sewing Bunny. Thank you so much for joining me in today's video, which is my June sew along. I say June like that because I'm actually recording this in May. You may have seen, I think I should have recorded a video explaining, but I'm actually getting married in a couple of weeks, or by the time you watch this already have got married, yay! And I'm pre-recording some footage. So yes, the sew along today I'm doing the Deer and Doe blouse, button-up blouse from their ebook Dressed. I will insert a picture of the ebook image here and also an image of the button-up blouse that I'll be doing. Also, you may notice that I've got nails. I'm actually trying out some stick-on nails for the big day. So I've got a whole load of variety of packs. I'm going to try a few out and see which ones I like the most. So yeah, if you suddenly think, wow, her nails have grown really quickly, that's why. Let's see how I get on with sewing because I've only just put these on last night. So yeah, I still feel a bit kind of with them. Anyway, I digress. Right, so the button-up blouse. First things first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look and see on the ebook, because I've got it on my laptop here, what size I would usually fall in the Deer and Doe patterns. If you have the ebook, I'm looking at page 99, which has all about your sizes. So I'm having a look on here. Now I am a 36-inch bust, I'm a 30 waist, and I'm a 40 hip. So I'm going to be mainly looking for my bust measurement as I'm going to be making a blouse. The blouse, as far as I understand it, doesn't go kind of anywhere near the hips. I think it does kind of sit just above the hip line. So I think the main thing I need to get is my bust measurement and my waist measurement. So I'm looking at here, and for a 36¼ bust, that fits into the size 40. Now for a waist in the size 40, it's 28½. So if I look up to the size 42, that does go up to a 30. And then for hips, I fall into a 42 as well, because that's 40¼ But as I say, I'm mainly looking for the bust and the waist measurement. So I'm looking at a 40 for the bust and a 42 for the waist. So what I'm going to do is, before I decide, what I'm cutting out or anything, I am going to have a look at the finished garment measurements. So for that, I need to scroll down and actually have a look at the instructions for the button-up blouse. So I'll just get to that section. Okay, so I'm on page 160, which is the finished garment measurements page for the button-up blouse. So it's actually saying on here that you shouldn't actually even worry about your waist measurement. It's only giving you the finished for your bust and your hips, because the way that the blouse is it just kind of floats over your waist. So it's going to be quite loose. So I'm having a look at the size 40 for the finished bust measurement. And that says it's 40 1/8. So 40 inches, let's say. And then the hips is 44 1/8, so 44 inches. So I think that's going to be absolutely fine for me. That gives me 4 inches worth of ease around the bust, which I think is fine, because at the end of the day, it's a blouse. You don't want it fitted. You want it kind of just, kind of loosely flowing over your bust. And then for the hips, 44 inches. So as I say, it probably won't go really anywhere near my actual hips, but that will allow for plenty of room there. So I'm going to cut out the size 40. So I've got my Deer and Doe Dressed ebook in these little folders that I've already had printed out in A0 format. So I'm going to find my button-up blouse one from there, and then I am going to trace it. So I do like to trace patterns just in case I like to make any alterations later on, or if I decide, I want to make something, for someone else that's a different size. So I'm going to get tracing. Okay, I will come back to you once I have done that. Okay, so only a few pieces for this, so it's very, very quick and easy to trace and cut out. For some of you, you may realise I'm using different tracing paper to what I normally use. This stuff curls up so much. It's okay, I like the width of it. It's about 84 centimetres wide, so I think that's about 33 inches, and yeah, it's quite thick paper, which I think is why it curls up so much. So I mean, it's great, but yeah, it's a bit annoying. I probably won't buy it again just because I don't like how thick it is and how much it curls. But for anyone that is interested, I will link it in the description box below. I just got it from eBay. Right, so I've cut out all my pattern pieces, so now I need to get cutting the fabric. So let me grab the fabric. This is the fabric that I will be using. It is beautiful. It is a Lady McElroy viscose, I want to say like a viscose crepe, because it's viscose but it has got that kind of crepe texture. Can you see there? Really, really nice. And I believe this design is called Dawn Chorus, obviously because of all the beautiful birds. It is absolutely stunning, and it's got a lot of bounce, this fabric, so it's got kind of like some stretch in it, but I mean, I'm not using it for the stretch, I'm using it just because of the design and the drapiness. Absolutely gorgeous. I think I got this from Felicity Fabrics. I think, like, this is probably one of my first ever purchases from them. That's how long I've had it. But yeah, it's gorgeous. So I'm going to get cutting out the fabric. One thing I am going to be a little bit mindful of is pattern placement. So what I'm going to try and do is, you'll probably see on here we have some like groups of birds and things. I'm going to maybe try and keep the groups of birds maybe to like kind of one side of it. I don't want to necessarily cut them up too much. I think I'm gonna have a little play around and see how I go on there. But yeah, I'll get cutting and then I will come back to you. Okay, so that is all of my fabric pieces cut out. I managed to get the pattern placement kind of roughly where I wanted it. The fabric requirements lengthwise for this pattern, if you've got a narrow fabric, I think it recommends, from the size I'm making, 1.8 meters, and if you've got a wide fabric then it's only a meter. So I had 2 meters and this was a narrower fabric, and I found that was absolutely fine for me. I did have a little tiny bit at the end, but yeah, that was absolutely brilliant for me. Also, once I finished cutting it out, I realised I needed to cut out interfacing. I forgot about that. So I just thought I'd let you know about the interfacing that I use for kind of more slippery fabrics, because this is very, very drapey. This is an interfacing that I got from Cheryl at Stitchy Bee, and I've used it for absolutely ages for all my interfacing on my drapey garments, and it's such a lovely drapey interfacing. Sorry, I can hear Bentley's in here, he's just meowed at me. Yeah, I just think it's a really, really lovely interfacing. So if you are interested, I will link Cheryl's shop down below. I think she calls it her, like, my favourite interfacing, I think, but I use it, I love it. So I would highly recommend. So pop that to one side. Are you right there, Bentley? He's having a good sniff around. So the first step of the instructions is to actually apply the interfacing onto the bits. So it is the back facing piece and also the front facing pieces. So I'm going to go to the iron, pop that on, and then I'll come back to you. Okay, so that is interfacing on those bits. That is done. So you can probably still hear Bentley. What's the matter? Okay, so the first step is to pin the front and the back pieces together at the shoulders. So let me move this out the way. Let me grab my front and back pieces if Bentley will let me. Okay, so this is my front piece. Thanks, Bentley. You're not going to let me do this, are you? Don't get your claws on my precious fabric. Okay, so the back piece I'm going to lie facing up, so right side up. And then my front pieces, I'm going to grab them, and at the shoulder I'm going to line them up. So right sides together. So this is the right side of the front, this is the right side of the back. So right sides together and line that up. And then same with the other one. So right sides together and line that shoulder bit up. So hoping you can see that there. So I've put right sides together, and now what I'm going to do is sew along these shoulder seams. Now it does say that once you've sewn you can then finish off the edges. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew a straight line across, and then I'm going to finish it off with some overlocking. Bentley's now playing with his little toy out in the hallway, so I'm going to do that and then come back to you. Okay, so those shoulder seams are now done. So you'll see that I have stitched along and then finished it off with some overlocking. I've chosen to do white overlocking rather than my usual rainbow colour, just because this fabric is a little bit sheer, so I just want to make sure that you know, that if any colour or anything does poke through, that the white, you won't notice it, whereas some of the rainbow colours, you know, you might end up seeing some of it. So I just want to be safe on that. Okay, so the next step is now the facing pieces. So we're going to attach the facing pieces. So these are the bits which we interfaced. So what we're going to do on these is similar to what we did on the front sections. So we want to do right sides together. So the back facing piece, so you want the right side up, so the interfacing piece is facing the table, and then you want to get each of your front facing pieces and you want to put them right sides together. So one that way, so you'll see that the interfacing is this side up. Try and move this so you can actually see this. There we go. So there we go on that one, and then the other one. Now you'll know it's the right side because these have like a little curve in them, and so you're looking for that sort of shape with it, so then you'll know which side goes on which bit. So again, we're going to stitch along these shoulder sections, and then I'm going to overlock it, and then the next step, it does say about finishing the seams all along the outside. So what I'm going to do is, once I've done the shoulder seams, I'm going to overlock all the way around the whole section on the outside. So I'll show you that once I've finished. So that is stitched and overlocked. So if you can see on there, so I have overlocked all of the outside edge. If I turn it round maybe for that way, that might show it maybe a little bit better. So all along the outside of that. So now we're going to attach this to the bodice. So if I grab my bodice back, so we want the blouse with the fabric on the outside, so turn it out the right way and then lie that down flat. And then we're going to attach this facing. So what you want to do is you want to attach it right sides together. So you've got the shoulder seams where we attached it to line up with that. So what you want to do is get one of those pieces and get the shoulder section here and line it up and pop a pin in. And then do the same on the other side. Line that up. Pop a pin in there. And then it should be a lot easier to then line up the rest of the blouse. So maybe from that angle you might be able to see it a little bit better. So I've lined up those shoulder seams there, and so then it's just a case of pinning this now to the back, and then what you can do is then pin all the way down the front like so, and then all the way to the bottom of the blouse. So I'll get it all pinned in place and then I'll show you. Okay, so that is all pinned in place. Let me see if I can show you that. So what I've done is, so yeah, I've pinned it so you can see it goes all the way down the front of the shirt and then around the back and then down the other side. Ooh, there we go. So I hope that shows it all right there. And yes, so the next step is obviously to then sew it in place, but it does say that when you get to the bottom of the blouse, so this bit here, you want to make sure that you leave 5/8 of an inch before the bottom, pivot and then sew horizontally across the facing to secure that in place. So you might want to just mark 5/8 of an inch from the bottom so you know when to stop, and then you sew horizontally all the way across to the edge of the facing. So yeah, I will do that and then I will come back to you. So that is all sewn in place now. So what I mean about the bottom, I'm hoping this shows, can you see I have sewn it down and then done 5/8 of an inch along the bottom. Oh, Misty is here as well, thank you Misty. Okay, so the next, move out the way Misty. The next step is to then, okay, so now that's sorted. Okay, so as I was saying, now it comes to just kind of notching the curves. So what it's asking you to do is where you see these kind of curve edges, you just need to make a few kind of snips. So like kind of cutting out like little triangles. You'll see it on the instructions on the ebook. So yeah, you need to cut out like little triangles within the seam allowance around any area where there's a curve. And then at the bottom, where we've just sewn along, we need to just cut that down to 3/8 of an inch. So not the actual blouse, just the facing piece. So again, I will get that all trimmed and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so I hope this shows up well enough, but can you see there my triangles that I've cut out but not gone past that seam line? And then at the bottom, then again, you can see there I've cut away this bit of the facing, but not the blouse. So the actual blouse is underneath there. So it just means that when you turn it in, that it hopefully should be a lot kind of quite smooth anyway. So I think that is the next step, I think. Let's just have a look. Okay, so yeah, the next step is that you want to press the seam allowances to the facing. So at the moment you can see here are the seam allowances. You want to press that up to the facing pieces, so it's all towards the facing, because then what you're going to do is you're going to understitch. So that is where you stitch the facing pieces that you just pressed up, and you want to stitch along this line here, so just here, quite close to the seam there, but it's just to kind of keep it all tucked in and in place. So I'm going to go give that a press, then I'm going to do my understitching, and then I will come back and show you that. Okay, so just wanted to give you a little close-up of this. So if you can see, my needle is on the facing side, so on this side here. So I'm sewing close up to this seam. And what I'm doing is, as I'm going, I'm turning this around, making sure that my seam is definitely on that side, and you can actually feel it as well. So I can feel that that seam is just there. And then what I try and do is just pull the fabric a little bit apart as I sew. Apologies if you can hear Bentley again. And then just take it really, really slowly. Okay, so just to show you that bit, so I have done my understitching, and so that all the seam allowances are towards here. So next step is to go to the iron and give it a good press to the inside, so that it means that yeah, that's all hidden away. So I'm going to do that and then I'll come back. Okay, so I have now pressed those facing pieces to the inside, so that it is nice and neat there. And now the instructions say just to pin that in place, because I think at a later stage we're going to be top stitching it. So I will just pin that all in place, just roughly, just so that yeah, it stays there. Right, yeah, apologies for the light. It's actually a little bit later on in the day. I started filming this actually about 3 o'clock. So I'm filming currently about, what is it, nearly 7 o'clock. And the sun is just coming straight in. I've got a little makeshift curtain that I kind of put on when the sun comes in, but it's just, that little bottom bit is not, it's not quite long enough, so I get lots of these little weird sun rays going on. Anyway, I have pinned that in place now, that facing, pinned that in place, and now I'm going to well, the instructions say that I should be working on the hem. However, I noticed that I have missed one step. I have missed sewing up the side seams. So I don't know quite what I was doing. I think I just completely missed that step. But it doesn't matter. I can do it now. Yeah, I just want to make sure I do it before the hem. So I'm going to sew up those side seams first. So that I'm just going to turn the blouse inside out and then line up these side seams. So one there and one there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew down each of the side seams and then finish that off with some overlocking, so I've got a nice neat edge. So I'll do that and then I'll come back to you to do the hem. Okay, so that is side seams done, and I finished it off with the overlocking. Okay, so now on to the hem. So it does say for the hem to do a double fold hem, but what I did is I did quickly try this on in between when I sewn the side seams. Before I overlocked the side seams, I did quickly try it on. And I do think that if I do a double fold, the shirt might be a little bit short on me. I don't mind it sitting, you know, kind of at high hip sort of level, but I don't really want to take it too much up. So I think what I'm going to do is instead I'm going to do an overlocking the whole way around the hem and then just fold it up once, just because then I can keep a tiny bit of the length. I should be absolutely fine for doing that, because in the corner sections here, it does obviously say to double fold it, but I think I'll be all right if I just do one fold on there, because then you're going to end up with this section, once you push it through like that, it will create a nice corner. So I don't think that matters too much if that bit's a little bit longer, because I can probably just cut a little bit more off there. So that is what I'm going to do for the hem. So I'm going to overlock all of the bottom, turn it up once and pin it in place, and then sew it through. So I will come back to you once I've done that. So that is the hem finished off. I need to give it a press. But yeah, that's the hem, and that's it with the overlocking and stitching at 1 centimetre. So yeah, it looks really nice. Just so you know, I stopped stitching up to this point here because I think we have to top stitch down here. Now there's nothing, you know, wrong with going all the way across, but I just kind of thought, I wonder if I can get it, you know, kind of nicely kind of at the corner and just sew up to here and then carry on top stitching down here, because I think that that is the next phase on that. So it is, yeah, top stitch the facing along the neckline 3/4 of an inch from the edge on there. Yes, so now it is just, oh, pop that pin back in. So now it's just a case of top stitching that facing down. I can show you. So yeah, so all of the bits that I've pinned, all like around here. So yeah, I'm going to top stitch, so 1/4 of an inch away from the edge, which is this edge, so of the facing. So yeah, you just need to follow that along there, and that'll give a nice little top stitch finish. Okay, so I'll do that and then come back to you. so that is all done. So I have top stitched all along here. Again, it does need a bit of a press and everything, but yeah, looks really nice actually. So it's all ready for when I want to put on the buttonholes and things. And oops, cut off those loose threads. Do that. So the next step is now attaching the sleeves. So I've got my sleeve piece. Let's just move that to one side. Okay, so we have both sleeve pieces, and then what we're going to do here is just bring them closed, so right sides together to create this shape. So fold them both over, and what we're going to do is sew down the inside arm of both of these, and I'm also going to finish them off with overlocking as well. So yeah, stitch down those, overlock those, and then I'll come back. Okay, so that is both sleeves done. So I've stitched them in place and then top stitched, overlocked them there. So now the instructions say now to hem the bottoms of these. So it does recommend doing a double fold like it recommended for the hem. I think I am going to do the double fold on the sleeves. These are the longer sleeves, so they're kind of like half length sleeve, so I think it would be nice with the double fold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these to the iron, because when I hem viscose I do like to use the iron and then pin it in place. Things like jerseys and things, then I can just do a double fold and pin them and iron them afterwards, but with viscose I much prefer to iron as I go when I hem, and then pin it all in place and then come back to the sewing machine. So I'll pop out, give it an iron, and then get it all top stitched. So that is the sleeves done. So I've done some top stitching on there, and that's on the inside. So yeah, that's nice. So now it's just a case of inserting the sleeves. So what I like to do is I like to have the sleeve the right way out, and I like to turn the shirt inside out. So I lie that down there. So we've got the armholes here. And then what I do is I insert the sleeve, so right side out, and I put it through that way, and then line up the bottom on the side seam and pin that in place, and then also line up the top and pin that in place. And so then that just means that then all you need to do is start matching up the rest of the armhole. Now the instructions don't say that you need to ease or anything like that, so hopefully this should be quite straightforward. So I'm going to do that for both sleeves and then sew them in place, and then once I've sewn them in place I am going to then overlock to get a nice finish on those edges. Okay, I'll come back to you once I've done that. Okay, so I've attached the sleeves now, And I must admit, it was actually like quite difficult. They did need quite a bit of easing in. So if you are struggling at all with the easing in of the sleeves, then what you can do is you can always just sew some gathering stitches just at the top of the sleeve head. Bring those in a little bit just so that you can have a couple of gathers. That's what I'd recommend anyway if you're maybe a little bit of a beginner or if you're just really struggling. I did manage to spend a while kind of easing it in just, you know, myself, but yeah, it was a little bit more difficult than I initially thought. I'm just trying to turn it the right way out so I can actually show you. So there we go. It's looking so good. I love it. Now, I did go and try this on with some pins down the front, and yeah, because this is a button-up blouse. But I think I can get away with just putting buttons straight on here without having to do buttonholes. So I'm sorry if you did want to see the buttonholes, but yeah, if I don't have to do buttonholes, then you know, that's even better, because I don't want to ruin this lovely, lovely fabric. It's quite delicate anyway, so if I don't have to put buttonholes in, then even better. Also, I did find that the correct way to button up, I say the correct way, the way that it's recommended is that you have the buttonholes on the on your right side and the buttons on your left. But actually I prefer the way that the pattern is that the left goes over the top of the right, which is the unconventional way of doing it. But I don't care, because I like this this pattern here. I think it flows better. The other way around, it kind of didn't look quite as nice, so I'm going to do that. So the recommendation on the pattern is to put 5 buttons on. I'm actually going to do 7 buttons, because the buttons that I want to use are these vintage buttons. They're kind of like a grey, kind of steely grey kind of colour, and I just think that that would look really nice with the shirt. But because they're quite small buttons, I think I need more of them. And so yeah, I'm going to put 7 buttons on. I've put my pins in there so I know where I want them. I'm just going to kind of measure just to make sure that they're as even as possible. But when I was trying on the blouse, first off is my first pin went like across my bust, so I had a button right in the centre there, because the last thing you want is, if you're wearing a blouse or anything, if there's any sort of gapage, you don't want any gapage on the full bust area. So that's where my first one went in, and then the second one was where did I want the blouse to finish. So I did there, and then I measured the gap between those 2 markings and then carried on down. Hope that makes sense. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop the buttons on. I'm then going to give it a really good press, and yeah, then I'll come back to you. Okay, so there it is finished. I've spaced the buttons out about 4.5 centimetres apart, and then left a little gap bit at the bottom as well. So I'm really pleased with it. So yeah, it's nice and kind of oversized but floaty. I've got it outside of jeans here, but then you can always tuck it in as well if you wanted to. Have a little blousey effect there. What I will do is I will insert some twirls and things. I won't film that now because it is pitch black outside, and I would like to do it in some natural daylight, maybe out in the garden or something, because yeah, with the artificial light it's quite a lot of shadows and things, so I'd like you to see it in its best possible light. I really like the length of the sleeves, kind of that half length. And yeah, I'm so pleased that I didn't have to do buttonholes. I think the deep V I think is lovely. It's not too plungy, but it's kind of plungy enough, I think, to look really feminine. So yeah, I love it. So yeah, I think if you are maybe slightly new to sewing, or if you just want a really easy project, this is a great one. I think I will be making quite a few more actually. I think they'd be absolutely perfect for work. So yeah, I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, then please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, then please do. Okay, so I'm going to insert some 12s and I will speak to you all very soon. Take care. Bye.